on the couch. Let's see. Let's get this thing.
Okay. We are live. Okay, good. All right. I don't see any viewers at YouTube. So as usual, usually Elise, how do you say your name?
Annalise.
Annalie.
Annalise.
Annalisa?
No, just Annalise.
Annalie. Okay. Um, Usually it takes us until about 6:40, 6:45, as we give other people time to find their way into the Hangout. Somebody is always challenged about that, um, because Google Hangouts is not as easy as we'd like it to be. Did you have any trouble figuring out how to get in,
Oh
Annalie?
no. I've got in. I've done a Google Hangouts before,
Okay.
so no
Okay.
trouble. Yeah, I just went in through my Google account.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good.
I
And
mean,
I
are
really
you
am
able to hear
just,
me better now? Are you able to hear me better now?
yes,
Oh, much
yes.
better.
Good. Oh, good.
And
Yes,
I really am just learning Google myself, so I'm not the best one to be um, really trying to. I learn as I go. That's how I learn most things. So,
Mhm.
I'm better now than I was on June 3rd, right, Randy?
Mm-hmm.
Randy,
Yeah. On
you tired? You
June,
hot?
we
You
launched.
tired today?
Hi, Labeeb.
Hello, ladies.
Oh,
Hey,
hi, Steve. How
Louise.
are you?
How's it
We
going?
Now that you're here, it's going just fine, dear.
Okay, now. All right.
we
That
have
was
a
called a
new
flirt. That was a flirt, Labeeb. That was a flirt.
I know.
All right.
we have a new member, Anna Lee, and I was just telling her, Labeeb, that when Randy and I launched the book group on June 3rd,
Mhm.
we were the only ones there. And this was after 100 people had RSVP'd that they planned to come. And so I
Okay.
was very dejected.
Oh no.
And I told Randy, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And Randy
Mhm.
was like, let's just give it some time. People will come.
They will.
And they did.
So we are here because of Randy's enthusiasm and determination.
Go, Randy.
So, what's your name again? Because I've heard Randy
Uh-huh.
and all the
It's
names that
it's Randy.
That's
you're Randy.
Randy.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
your name again? I'm sorry.
that was Venita walking away.
Venita.
That's
Okay.
I'm sorry. That's that
Labeeb.
ADD, A bird flew by.
And Georgette, who I think wasn't Georgette the first one to find her way in, Randy,
Yep.
into the Google? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Georgette. Okay.
came Venita. That's
Melinda.
Venita. And why is
Venita.
it that you walk away every time I try to introduce you?
Nita, what's going on?
And now all we have is a shot of your behind. Let me go back to
She's flirting. She's flirting.
Yeah, yeah, I'm on a trial tonight.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, where's Annalise? Now she left.
You should have took a shower.
You already
All right, I
left
have
us.
to go find the news. I'll be right back.
We have another viewer.
Oh, we do?
Eh.
Talk to them, Randy.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hey.
Oh, who are you? I had to come
My name is
back.
Paul Chapman. I'm Randy's fiance.
Oh, nice to meet you. What's your name?
Paul.
Repeat that.
Paul, Paul.
Oh, that's my father's name. Yeah, I can remember that. Paul. Nice to meet you, Paul.
Nice to meet you too, man.
Nice to meet you. I saw your. Hello.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay, all right. I'm going over here to get the notes, so I thought I might have cut you off. Where do I have them? I don't know. Paul, I saw that that beautiful proposal when you proposed to Randie on graduation day. That was really cool.
Thank
Yeah.
Congratulations, you guys. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Testing sound again because I changed it. I had headphones in my head, but they won't let me. It only lets me sit so far in front of the speakers. I had to move up a little. Hopefully, you can hear me clearly.
We can hear you a
Annalie.
little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
So we do have one viewer, Randie. So why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Okay, I'm trying to find the notes. I have mine, but I don't have yours.
Oh.
All right, but we start the same every every
Well, I
week.
did have a couple little, but go ahead and get us started, and then I'll chime in.
Okay. Well, hello. My name is Randie Henderson. I am moderating tonight for the book club chapters 5 and 6 of We Are the Ones We Have Been Waiting For of Alice Walker's novel or book, and Michelle will be helping me out because I guess she's added some more things to the list. But tonight I am moderating, and I am watching from Atlanta.
And I guess let's just have everyone introduce themselves and give their location. I'm Michelle Odom. I'm here in the Bronx tonight, Bronx, New York. And Venita.
Welcome, Annalise and Paul. My name is Venita Walker, and I am in Hartford, Connecticut, actually Cromwell, Connecticut. Welcome.
Welcome.
And Labeeb.
Hello, everyone. This is Labeeb. I'm live here from Long Island, New York.
And Georgette.
And my name is Georgette Moses, and I'm participating from Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm happy to see all the new faces here tonight.
And Annalie.
Yes, I'm Annalise. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. I have to do some maneuvering. I'm in Atlanta, and I was invited. Yeah,
Oh,
yes. I'm in Atlanta,
Cool.
and I was invited by a new FB acquaintance. I don't actually have the book in my hands. I'm actually temporarily staying with a friend. But I do have the book, and I've read the book before. So, and I'm also
Oh, good.
identify as a womanist. I do a lot of writing, blogging. Today's been a hot day because of the Ray Rice, Janae. What's her last name? What's her last name besides Rice now? But
Yeah,
I
we
think it's
know who you mean.
Chambers. Yes, but so I've been on that all day, and so it's good to be here. So I did. I don't think I'm that prepared. I did invite some other friends. They may or may not show up, but I was pleased to see, the announcement and what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, welcome. And we also have Paul with us tonight. Paul, you want to introduce
How you doing,
yourself
everybody?
again?
My name is Paul Chapman. Yes, ma'am. My name is Paul Chapman, and I am viewing from Atlanta as well.
All right.
Great.
And we like you already since we know you're Randy's fiance.
Yeah. Woo-hoo for Paul.
So that's our sort of normal start. But I wanted to make sure that we review the moderator for next week. That's one thing. Um, and I believe it is Labeeb who has dropped out on us. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm sure he'll try to get back in. But he's moderating next week, so we're okay for that. Next week is what, the 16th, and then the following week is still open if someone wants to moderate that week. So think about it. The other thing is, I wanted to ask you: has anyone shared any videos yet? Annalie and Paul, we have a YouTube channel where all of the videos from these broadcasts are kept. And what I've been doing every week, we're live on the air now, and so Google is going to automatically record the entire session.
Okay.
I then take those 90-minute sessions and break them into segments and create small videos around that. So all of those are housed on our YouTube channel. So I have been trying to encourage our members to share the clips on their own social media sites. So Georgette started us on a video challenge a couple of weeks ago. And so I'm trying to find out, has anyone met the challenge? I certainly have.
I did share the video.
All
I
right.
haven't gotten any feedback yet, but that's not because of them. It was my responsibility to get in touch with them and ask for the feedback. So I'm just no good, but I will do that.
Well, I don't get much feedback on them anyway, so I think that's just the way folks are. But still, we have to put it out there for them to reply to if they want to.
Well, these are closer
Anybody
folks.
else?
Well, the last time,
Huh?
I said these are closer folks to me, so they do have an obligation to tell me what they're thinking.
Okay.
I get on that.
Randy?
well, the last video from last week I did not share, but the one before you tagged me in it, so it automatically shared on my page.
Oh,
So
is
I
that
couldn't
what's
share it.
happening?
So it was on my page already.
Okay.
It was on
Okay.
there from one from the week before last. It's on there.
Okay.
I just want to let you know that you were
Okay.
doing that. That when you tag us in it and we accept it, like to view it on our timeline, it automatically goes on our timeline
Huh.
on my page.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that.
the last one you commented
Okay.
tagged me.
But the others weren't like that?
Cause you will add me in the comments, but you're adding me. The last one you added me in the actual description, like you tagged me in instead of
Oh,
just
okay.
adding me as a comment. Yeah, you tagged me in it.
Okay. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That might be the best way.
Georgette or Labeeb?
That might be the best way to do it. At least for me, Michelle, is to tag me in the video. That way I'll get it. I'm not too sophisticated where if you place it somewhere and then for me to share it from there, I'm not too sophisticated to be able to do that unless you share it to me on Facebook. Then I could reshare the video that way. But if you share the video on I think Google Plus, I don't really know how to go from there to Facebook. Let's say. So if you tag me in it, it should come up on my Facebook page, like Randy said, and then that's pretty easy for me right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that. But what I would just say for everybody is, if you go to YouTube and you then copy the web address, the address at the top of the page,
Right.
that is the link that you can use to share it anywhere. So you just copy the web address and paste it wherever you want to paste it.
Okay.
Georgette, how are you doing with it?
Yeah, I did pretty well last week. I shared on Google Plus, my Google Plus page, and on Facebook. And how I did it on Facebook was exactly how you just described. I went to the YouTube channel and then just copied and pasted the link. So and like Venita, I haven't
Okay.
gotten any responses, but I put it out there. So if they want
Yeah.
to see it,
Yeah.
there it is.
Okay. So my next question is about when I create the videos, I have been tagging basically everyone that was on that broadcast. You can tag a video with up to 25 items, and this is tagging that takes place at YouTube. And that is the tagging that if any of you Google search your name, what's going to come up probably near the top of the list are your are all of these videos. And so I never really asked you if you wanted to be a part of that tagging, but Venita and I were talking about it recently, and so I'm putting that question out there now. I, I told you all about all my problems, but one problem I don't have is an employer breathing down my neck about who am I in the world. And so that gives me a certain fear. And I understand that employers are doing all kind of crazy things, asking people for their Facebook passwords and things like that. So if you really don't want to be tagged in any of that kind of stuff, you can tell me mail, or a message some kind of way. Tag you, okay? So I think that's all I have to say, Randie. If you want to go ahead and carry
Okay.
on.
All right. So I'll read the summary and the first question and the answer, and so we're not all looking
Can
crazy.
you just give us the title of the book and the chapters that we're reading? Because I like to have that on the tape, and you do it so well.
Okay. We are reading. Oh, hold up. I have 3 different notes on here. That's
I
chapters
lost sound with
5.
Rand.
Can you hear me?
No.
No, Benita.
Now I can. Yeah.
Okay. We are reading We Are the Ones We Have Been Waiting For. Chapters 5, Crimes Against Dog, and Chapter 6, This Was Not an Area of Large Plantations. That's good, Michelle?
Yeah.
Okay. So the summary of Chapter 5 and 6. Alice Walker's Chapter 5 was a short but sweet chapter. In it, she reflects on her dog, Marley, and reflects on the things she has taught her. For example, we are not ourselves when we are mean, self-forgiveness, love, affection, and companionship, as well as the importance of these things. Chapter 6 is a much longer chapter and digs deep into human nature. In this chapter, she speaks a lot on healing, reflection of history, and overcoming the past in a healthy manner through meditation, education, and practice. Both chapters include some of Alice Walker's deepest reflections and emotions. These chapters were perhaps her most personal. So, question 1, um, chapter 5, Crimes Against Dog. Discussion question, the chapter review. Marley was born December 9th, 1995. She shares a birth sign, Sagittarius. At times, I feel surrounded by Sagittarius and enjoy them very much. They are fun to be with, outspoken, passionate, and won't hesitate to try new things. First question. Alice Walker starts this chapter on a light note. I found her mention of signs as refreshing, though I can't really explain why. Have you ever paid much attention to your sign? Do you think there is truth and characteristics associated with them?
Well, while I'm not what do you call it, an astrologist, I do pay attention to my sign and the sign of others. And this is why I'm going to say what I'm about to say. I disagree with the Sagittarius thing. Um, I'm not too fond of Sagittariuses. However, my father is, for example, and a couple of my good friends are. So that's kind of a, it's kind of a contradiction. But just in terms of some of the characteristics of a Sagittarius that I found,
What is your sign?
they tend to be Capricorn.
Ooh.
Oh.
Okay. So,
Oh.
and folks have problems with Capricorns too. So, but anyway, I manage with all 12. Let's just put it that way.
Well, you were starting to tell us what your assessment of the Sag is.
I think they tend to be a little bit of selfish, but on the other hand, quite giving. They're both fun to be around, because of their spunkiness, I think I would call it. But then on the other hand, they're kind of moody. So, there are times you don't want to be around them. So that's that.
What is before we continue, if you know your sign, can you tell it, since Alice Walker started the chapter off about signs?
Well, I'm a Sag.
You're holding up for something.
And so I appreciated Alice Walker's assessment of the Sag. And I can't disagree with your assessment, though, Labeeb. We do have our moods. But I've had so many bipolar people in my life. I would say that our moods don't come close to what that experience can be like. We may have a day or a few hours where we just need to retreat, and you just need to respect that. And in terms of being selfish and giving, I would say my experience with Sag is that they're mostly very giving. What I would say I am selfish about is if I feel strongly about something or passionate about something, or am just needing my space, I can be very selfish about that. In terms overall of how I feel about astrology, I think that people, since the beginning of time, have been looking for ways to get out of our.
Michelle?
Something's going on.
We didn't hear anything.
You can't hear me?
Oh,
No.
no.
Oh, now we can.
Breaking up big time.
I'm breaking up big time?
Well, not
Oh, shoot. I'm just talking because I think it's my connection. You all talk.
Venita, what's your sign?
Aries.
Oh! Yes, we Aries in the house.
Yes, we are. And my best friend, the Sagittarius, and everything she said is right. Except Aries can handle it. You understand what I'm saying? And you guys can handle her. And we've been friends for 40-something years. And she's a Sagittarius. Although I would never sleep with one of them. They could be a best friend. But yeah, I'm an Aries. I think there's different types of Aries. Aries are energetic, um, fair, um, can be brash if I'm tested. I'm working on that though. It's getting better. They have a strong exterior, but actually they're very soft inside, and the exterior is for protection because we got a lot of people that's going around that have no humility and just going crazy all the time, and Aries don't understand that. So we're who we are. If you love us, we feel fabulous. But if you don't, that really is your issue, not ours. We're like that cat that Alice mentioned in chapter 5. Um, we will be us regardless of anything, and the only way we'll change being us, it has to be by force. I mean, gun to the head, noose around the neck. Even then, we probably go down in flames if we really believe in something. We stand by people that we love. We do have a pet peeve, though. We don't do needy people too well. Overly needy people stress us. And unfortunately, we work on that all the time. But it's been 50-something years. I still have not mastered dealing with people that are over needy. And in terms of over needy, I mean emotional vampires. Those type of people. Not folks that are hungry. Not folks that need spiritual, support. I'm talking about those emotional vampires. We cannot deal with those people, and they don't really last that long. As I said, I do my list every year. 30 people, half a man left. It's usually Michelle. That's it. Who else is the Aries over there? Any other Aries?
What you say?
Who else? Any other Aries?
Right here, right here.
Oh, Georgette, I was wondering why, girl, I was feeling you.
Yes.
I was
This
feeling
explains a lot.
you.
This explains a lot, Venita.
Okay. When's your birthday, G?
April 6th.
Mine's a 12, girl. No wonder I was like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Annalise?
Well, I mean, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting that, like I said, I haven't been in front of this book for a while, and so I'll preface this. A long time ago, I actually was very, I could say, fascinated with astrology and with, therefore, now astronomy, because I do see a difference between astrology and what astronomers do, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Um, and I was just looking for it on my system here, but I've written about this. It's called "What's Your Sign? Thoughts on Astrology, Sexual Compatibility, and First Impressions." And I wrote about an experience that I had by going to a bar. I went one night by myself, and a guy was sitting next to me, and he asked me my sign. And when I told him my sign, he had all of these assumptions about who I was and what we should do together. And namely, it was sexual assumptions, assumptions about compatibility. Um, so I wrote about that in a short blog thereafter because that was all he could talk about.
Can I guess it?
Yeah.
Scorpio.
Are you a Scorpio?
Yeah. Why did you guess? Why did you guess?
Because they're associated with sexuality. You guys are the vampires and sex. Prince is Scorpio. Always incognito. They move all smooth. Player rep, player type thing.
Oh, no. I don't think Scorpios, again, assuming that there's a lot of merit to that, but I wouldn't say that.
Well, that's what they say. That's not what I believe necessarily.
That is my issue with it in defining a person on the basis of an astrological a connection with an astrological or constellation in the sky. And I wrote about that because I write as a womanist and I write as an atheist as well. So I don't, I see astrology, and as astrology got started as a, if you will, a form of early spirituality, a form of, in some cultures, there is actually, where, say for example, a couple will need to go together to a diviner to see if they are compatible, their signs are compatible. Of course, at one point in time, this all seemed reasonable to me. But now where I am in life, not only with regard to being an atheist and writing as an atheist and advocating, uh, in a sense, for atheists and atheism, I don't, you see what I'm saying? So I don't particularly give it more credence than you will kind of wishful kind of thinking. So
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that they, how to put that, yeah. So I associate it with something that could possibly, we think, what is really the merit of saying, well, I was born, and when I was born, the sign was up in the sky as a sun sign, or there's a rising sign, if there's the ascendant sign. Um, but I don't use it as a way to make decisions about someone that I would want to be with, whether that would be sexually or not. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, so I mean, matter of fact, because as I said, I just wrote a piece, probably it was about 3 or 4 months ago, about that. What's your sign? Um, and so I don't remember reading it in this particular book with Alice Walker, but like I said, I don't have my book in front of me, but I think it's fascinating. And I think it's fascinating. A lot of people really are into signs and using the signs as a way to, if you will, figure someone out, so to speak, versus, like you said, let me see if I have the names right, but you said, Michelle, you were talking about, what it is to be in relationship with someone who has mental health issues, or is dealing with some kind of mental health question. So I
Mhm.
think that it's a fascinating thing. I mean, I think you can build a whole argument around astrology and a sign as a way into relationship, but it's not something that I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
I can you all hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay, I do just want to say, like I said, I think it's a way of trying to make sense out of human behavior, and you start to see these patterns. But astrology is considered unscientific, but a lot of these personality assessments that we do today, particularly the Myers-Briggs type indicator, are considered to be scientifically valid. And whereas astrology gives you 12 personality types or signs, Myers-Briggs gives you 16 personality types. And they don't correspond at all to the signs, really, but it's still a way of trying to organize and make sense of human behavior.
Right. Oh, I mean, I totally get that. I'm just saying, I think, the, hold on, the argument that, one can use the constellation of the stars in the sky, astrology, for a means to, again, make choices of, say, someone, or even figure somebody out. Um,
Hmm.
a very ancient one, and a very,
Hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily call it scientific. Well, I would call it scientific in the way that it was science of ancient peoples. Okay, I would
Right,
say that. But
right.
I think that we have outlived that science in a sense, as in terms of where we are now. In other words, um, what we use in order to make sense of our lives now in the year 2014 is very different than what we used before. I think our ancestors, our people who came from many things to make sense of their lives, where we were. But it doesn't
Hmm.
mean that I would use those things today. And that is
Right.
astrology, because a lot of people are also duped by astrology in the sense of they'll pay money to go, I think, to talk to somebody and tell them this. And there are some people who would say that's valid, and they I guess that they really value that. I was watching a television show the other day. What's the name of it? I think Carmen. It's an old movie with Beyonce in it and Most Def, and I was shocked, to find all the actors that I'm certainly familiar with. But in one scene, that's what happens. She goes in with her friends for a tarot reading, which I would put squarely in with type of astrology, because our
Yeah.
constellation that you're thinking of when we talk about the 12, Scorpio, Aries, some of the ones we talked about, uh,
Yeah.
just one of many, right?
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
signs and constellations that people associate with that we don't necessarily even recognize. You know what I mean? The chicken, the rat, snake.
Yeah. Well, let's try to move on because Randy has a lot of questions for us
Hi.
tonight. But Kim, let's hear
Yes.
what's
Thank
your
you.
sign?
I'm Capricorn.
Oh.
Oh. Okay. And do you ascribe to astrology?
Years will go by, and I'll have to remember that I'm Capricorn. I don't. But the one thing that I do believe is that there are people who they line up to the characteristics of their sign. Like my daughter's Taurus. And so there was a book, Parenting by Astrology. And so what it means when a Capricorn parents somebody who's a Taurus. So that was helpful. And the other thing is that I think birth order is more important to me in terms of trying to sum up people. To kind of see where they fall in, if they were the last child or the first child or the middle child. Those things kind of color what I think of people more so than the astrology.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Paul, we didn't hear from you.
Oh, I'm a Pisces.
Okay.
Mhm.
And Randy,
Why
what are
did you
you?
ask that, Randy?
So, Randy, what does it mean to be a Pisces?
I don't know.
You look these things up.
What's
Tell
your
us more about
sign,
you. About
Randy?
you.
I'm a Leo.
Ooh.
Oh, I
Ooh.
like Leos.
Really?
They're all right.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Leo and Aries. And Leo's a fire sign, right?
Mhm.
And so is Aries, and so is Sag. So, and I have found in my experience that those are the people that I get along with most easily. I
Mhm.
can get along with other people, but it, takes a little more effort.
My mom is she's an Aries and my dad is a Sagittarius.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh.
Mhm.
And I love my
Mhm.
mom. She's cool. I love Aries. Y'all are cool.
Yeah.
Very simple. To the point,
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
My father is a Leo, and my sister is a Leo.
oh,
And
okay.
I have another sister who's a Capricorn.
Oh.
Yeah, she's a New Year's baby. And then, I'll say ooh too. But, Ellen is fabulous. But I don't know Ellen well. I will never know Ellen well because Ellen bores me.
All right.
I
Well,
don't know
Venita, let me cut you
why.
off because it's 7:12.
Okay.
Let's move on, Randy. Where are we?
Okay. I'll do question 2 since the chapter was so short and I only had 2 questions for that chapter. Okay, so question 2. Um, dogs understand some. You ready?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Dogs understand something I was late learning. When we are mean to anyone or any being, it is because we are temporarily not ourselves. Question 2. Do you believe this is true for everyone? What about racist, sexist, homophobic, and transphobic people? Also, in what ways is this true for you? How long does it take you to realize you are not yourself? What is the importance of using a reference to animals to explain the act of forgiving and the gift of it?
Can you repeat the question, Randie?
Mhm. Um, do you believe this is true for anyone? When Alice Walker states, when we are mean to anyone or any being, it is because we are temporarily not ourselves. So what does it say about racist, sexist, homophobic, and transphobic people? Also, in what ways is this true for you? How long does it take you to realize you are not yourself? What is the importance of using a reference to animals to explain the act of forgiving and the gift of it?
Hmm.
Well, can I jump in?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so I think for me, it's important to understand Alice Walker's kind of like her view of humanity because move a little closer here because if she's saying that when you're mean to someone, and on the other side of that, she's also working with a specific understanding of what it means to be human. So when she says that we aren't ourselves, meaning we aren't truly acting in a human way, if we are mean to someone, then she's also indicating there that, or implying that to be human is to, for example, to be naturally kind of nice or compassionate to people. Okay,
Mhm.
that's an interesting uh, assumption or assertion, however you want to put that, I think, because it's a question that I've been wrestling with, given the many events that have been happening in our world right now. And so, for example, ISIS. I'm thinking, do we really want to say that at the bottom of our humanity is this compassion and kindness? And I think that Alice Walker certainly would say that being the true boots, you know. So I think that's important
Mhm.
to kind of lay out there in terms of understanding that before jumping into the answer of, when do you think you're not yourself? Because again, she's almost arguing that to be unkind to someone or another animal, a non-human animal, for example, is to go against humanity.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's an important thing to think about, it's a question I've been pondering a lot these days, given what's happening in our world. You know, are people really at the core good, as in kind, or having the capacity to be uh, compassionate to others? You know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just want to throw that out there because I think that's important to understand the piece of where she's coming from with her writing.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Got a background noise.
that's an interesting question, Annalie. I've pondered that a lot myself. Um, from the Cain and Abel days. Man's inhumanity toward man is goes way back. Um, but yet I'm also at an age where I feel like people used to be kinder and gentler, and able to have a level of human compassion that I think we are losing or have lost. Um, and I think the reasons for that are complicated. Um, I'm not even sure. I mean, but Venita and I talk about this all the time. It is as if there is a new animal on the scene that human beings have. There's an interesting experiment that was done in the 1930s by this doctor with cats, and it was looking at processed food and the effect that that had on the body of the cats. And after 4 generations, the cats, each generation, the cats would get sicker and sicker. Their brain chemistries, the size of their brain started changing. They started having all of these physical ailments. By the time you got down to about the 4th generation, they couldn't reproduce anymore. And by the time, it was like there was no 5th generation. The processed food literally killed off these cats. And so, we don't really talk a whole lot about the environmental impact of all the stuff that we're dealing with as human beings, including our food. So I don't know, but I think it's complicated. I think our food, the preponderance of drugs, legal and illegal, a variety of things, the toxicity in the air, a variety of things, I think is literally physiologically changing people into something that, I don't know. That's why I say your question is interesting. Have we de-evolved, to some place that we used to be? Or are we going someplace new, but you don't see a whole lot of what looks like humane behavior going on anymore? It's very frightening.
Very. Well, yeah, and that's exactly my point. At one point, I believe that at our core, human beings are good, compassionate, kind, all these things. But the more that I see, the more that I, pay attention to the way our world is going, I think that I don't think that you could say, for example, that it's just human beings themselves that are lacking something or not doing something well or being human very well. But I do think that the environment, the society in which we live in, are deeply compromised by greed. They're deeply compromised by the poor governing that we have, like what's happening for the gangster, almost gang-like policing of the black body. These are all actions that have come about because of bad human behavior, but also because of the laws, so-called laws that we have to deal with that. And so, we're not just. We're not living in that's the word. We're not living in a just society. So again, I think it's very difficult to answer a question like when you're not yourself, and feeling like you're not yourself because you're not being kind to someone else, given our environment and given the fact that we don't live in a just society. We don't live in a world that's just, and not particularly with African people of African descent, and other non-white people as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but but I also have to say, of course, the other side of the argument is at what point do we take responsibility for our own behavior? Like Venita called me one day and she said, "How you doing?" And I'm like, and I was in the middle of reading an article online that just happened this week. A 7-year-old boy was killed at a birthday party when 2 men got into an argument over a woman. Then a couple of days later, we have the Ray Rice situation going on. A football player, who cold copped his then fiance. Yes, we have been treated like less than human, and we are seemingly trying to do our best to live up to that rather than to prove it wrong. But to me, you cannot expect the person that caused the problem to ever come along to solve your problem. The goal of turning black people into slaves was to make them less than human. And so, as much as it's true that we have been dehumanized and continue to live under incredibly oppressive conditions, it's not the oppressor that is ever going to solve that problem. I promise you that.
Oh, I agree with that, but I guess what I'm saying is after centuries and centuries of dehumanization, occupation, colonization, we can go on and on. How then do we expect the human to live to her best, to live in a what we consider again in a humane way, and I think it's important to define then what humane would be. When she has been historically uh, again, like you said, devalued or dehumanized time after time, generation after generation. Dysfunction in family is passed down over and over again, and we learn those patterns, and those patterns of dysfunction then are touted as normal. I'm sure what Janae, she has shown us today. I stand with Janae because I think most of us are compromised by some higher power in our lives, whether it be a person, money, work, where money and work and one's occupation or one's profession, that then hits us over and over again, abuses us, and we get up and we go back to it. And I think that for us then to look at Janae or people to look at Janae and say how could she, we have to then take a long look at us ourselves and just get back to the question, Randie, saying what am I doing in my day-to-day existence to be loyal to an abusive, malevolent power? And that power, again, that may come in the form of a non-animal, form, again, money. So what happens? So I just think that, again, has made me think, can we come down to just a kind of simplistic equation that, oh, when I'm not feeling myself, because it makes me think of you, Simone, I wish I knew what it felt like to be free. I wish I knew what myself feels like, be myself, my true self, because frankly, and I guess this is my answer to the question, day to day, I am trying to find myself. I'm trying to embrace, and I'm also trying to redefine myself, and in doing that in partnership with others and the world in which I live. And I hope that, I can't say that everybody's doing that, you know what I mean? But I know that I feel like that's part of my task in life, to get back to myself, to come to myself, to define it. Go ahead, Kim. Sorry.
Well, thank you. When I hear the question, I think what comes up for me is, I think Iyanla Van Zandt has this expression that you have to give from the cup. You have to give from the overflow, not from the cup. So that if you're giving, if you're doing so much and you're not filling your cup, and my cup is my soul. And so if I'm not doing things to enrich my soul, I will then be mean to people. I'll give too much. I'll work out addictions. I'll do whatever it is that is not healthy for me. But when I am working to nourish my soul, I return to myself. And I can go and sit in grass or in nature. I can go swimming. I can stop and listen to my breath. They're just things that I can do that remind me that I'm bigger than what may agitate me at the moment. My soul is so much deeper and bigger than racism. And when I hear all the things that are going on in the world, you know, sometimes I just want to go and get a gun and just do whatever that thing is, and then I have to remind myself that one, I'm becoming an elder, and that there are people watching me, and that I am responsible for other souls. And so I sometimes have to snap myself out of it and say, you need to leave your life as an example for other people. And when I'm in the example, that's when I'm my true self. How often I slip out of the example is a concern because it's too often, but I'm growing and I'm evolving. So when I hear that question, that's what comes to mind, is that when I'm nourishing my soul, like this particular call, this is my third time being on this call, this nourishes my soul. And so I'm responsible for on a daily basis finding things like this to nourish my soul. And that brings me back to myself. So I guarantee you, once I'm off this call, the conversation with my daughter and my family will be different. It'll be nicer because we've all had this chance to nourish our souls together. So that's what kind of came up for me when I was listening to Randie read the question. Thank you.
Georgette, do you have anything before we move on?
I just want to reflect on what everyone said here, and that it comes back to taking stock and recognizing when you're at that point that whatever it is in the environment or internally or externally that's causing you to do something that's contrary or against the path you'd like to be on, which would be positive, that you're conscious enough to recognize it and then do something different to change. So that's all I want to say. Mm-hmm.
Well, because of time, I'm gonna try to get to some questions that we can reflect on a little bit. So for question 2, chapter, this was not an area of large plantations, suffering too insignificant for the majority to see. Story so chilling, the horse was reeking his blood. His own father was one of the assassins. His crime was that his horse was too fine. Unfortunately, is one in a storehouse of such stories those of us present might hear or expect to hear on any given day of our lives. What do we do with the shock? What do we do with the anger, the rage? What do we do with the pain? Question 2, chapter 6. The last part of Walker's question can be related to the death of Michael Brown and the looting that the media refuses to stop discussing. Many would argue that the looters had no right, and yet I find myself ready and willing to tear things apart if I were to find out that someone I loved had passed, been killed, or murdered. So what do we do with the anger, rage, and shock? Is it healthy to act on it and then reel yourself in? I would like to let Venita answer this first, if she has.
Okay, Venita, I'm going to leave the camera on you. You guys excuse me for a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
I believe, Randie, I think it's very healthy to act on our anger. However, when I look at that particular incident, I think it depends on what stage of life you're at. I'm at the stage now where I use my mind more. Even if I'm angry, I use my mind more. When I was a younger person and I was, in the 20s and maybe in the 30s, I might have acted out first and then reeled myself in. But now, being a more mature person, and my mind, as you mature, you learn how to use your mind first. It's almost like the game of football. I love sports. I'm a football girl. With a season, you can't call me. That's where I am. At a certain point, you will find that young football player, he's quick. But you'll find a mature football player might be a little slower, but he can anticipate everything that's going around him. and he will still carry that game on home. So I believe the mind should work before the anger. Not saying that you shouldn't show your anger or feel anger, I should say, but at this point in my life, and I find with people that are maturing, we tend to use our mind more. As an example that Alice Walker gave in the book, she said, a good example, if someone shoots you in the chest with an arrow, are you going to stand there and chastise that person or ask them why they shot you in the chest with an arrow? Meanwhile, the arrow is still stuck in your chest and you're bleeding profusely? No! You're going to pull that arrow out of your chest. So that's the way I feel about anger. I don't hoard it. I just deal with it in a different way. And that's usually mental. You know, what am I going to do about this? What would be plan A, B, and C? How will I, influence other people to make a change? Because when I looked at that, a lot of the clips on television, quite frankly, I was appalled. Mm-hmm. I just found a whole lot of energy burnt for nothing. Folks were coming all over because they're called opportunists, a.k.a. parasites. They had nothing to do about nothing. Even the folks that were looting and doing crazy outlandish things, I thought it was quite crazy. It still didn't address the situation. So I believe in feeling anger, but I think you should use your mind first. Mm-hmm. Sometimes reeling yourself in after is much too late. Much too late. And you can't undo the harm.
Okay. Well, just to clarify, the news came out probably like 2 weeks ago and said that the people who were looting, majority of them were people from neighboring counties.
Yes.
That the people of Ferguson had actually been trying to protect the shops.
I said opportunists. I said come from other places. They were opportunists,
Mm-hmm.
a.k.a. parasite. Louisiana during the floods. What did I see in the media? Now, we got 190 feet of water, and folks are carrying 52-inch TVs on your back. Where you going? I just can't, and maybe it's something wrong. Maybe I just am in another place, in another time or something. But where you going? And then, if you're going to get angry, what I never understood, even during the LA riots, you're projecting your anger at a certain group of people. If you're going to do that, why are you tearing down your own neighborhood? And then when you get done, you stand back and say, what do we do now? I mean, really? That's what happens when you don't use your mind first.
Well, I mean, I agree. I understand. I don't know where you're going with the TV. I don't know why you tear down your own neighborhoods, but Alice Walker asked a poignant question. Where do you go with that anger? And we've gone through the judicial system, we've gone through the legislative systems, we've gone through the executive system. We've done a variety of things to try to seek justice in this country as Black people. But at some level, it really is not working. And so then what do you do? Because there is a legitimate rage that comes when injustice occurs and injustice is not addressed. And there's no justice when an 18-year-old boy is shot down ruthlessly in the street by a police officer, allegedly for some nonsense, and then left in the middle of the street like a piece of trash. What are people supposed to do with that? If you can't get justice from the justice system, um, it takes you to an irrational place where you do irrational things. And so, no, it doesn't make sense that we turn on ourselves, but we have not found an effective way to get equality, civil rights, justice, freedom, all of that in this country.
You're never going to get it. It's never going to happen, ever.
So what do you do? What do you do? What do you do with that anger? I mean, if it's never going to happen,
I have no idea what we're going to do with it. I don't. We have to find a way. I can't even answer that question. I just know, and I feel in my heart.
And nobody can answer that question.
It has to be.
And that's why they tear down their neighborhoods.
It has to be an outlet, a way to.
Well, really, I think for me, this chapter 6 was really Alice Walker's way of taking us on a journey and giving some guidance as to what to do with that rage. And she says in there at one point that some of us, like herself, have been chosen to walk a particular path where we're not suffering all the oppression that the masses are suffering for. She didn't phrase it like that, but essentially that's what she was saying, that she has been on a special path where she has been afforded opportunities that most of us have not had, and that she has used that opportunity to try to find ways to help us cope with the world we're living in. And that's when she gets into the whole discourse on Buddhism and meditation and and all of that. So which I guess interpret as finding your individual way to process that natural rage.
Well, I mean, I see. Hopefully, you can see me because I've been trying to figure out my Google Hangout here. But I see. I mean, go back to the question. I think anger is a very natural emotion, especially when it's in response to a senseless murder by a cop. I mean, I think we expect there to be a degree of anger. How the media frames the reaction of the protesters, I don't trust that much. Um, because, for example, I mean, Martin Luther King, when he was marching and fighting, he would be arrested for stuff like loitering. And so we have to keep in perspective that the police, as well as our media, have an interest in, and we work together, have an interest in maintaining a certain image of the people vis-a-vis what they're doing in terms of law enforcement. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I don't condone violence. I think, again, thinking on Alice Walker and who she is vehemently against violence, even as a Buddhist and what have you. But I think that, again, we don't even have the full story on what actually took place there. We are unless you're there firsthand, you kind of at the mercy of what you see on TV. So I really think that it's hard to gauge what was really going on in Ferguson, in the name of whether or not, what was really moving, because I really don't trust, I guess you could say that, reports made by the media in that sense to tell the truth about the type of protesting that's going on there. For example, on Twitter, I was able to get real-time tweets, from people I follow on Twitter, and some of their reports were diametrically opposed to what I was seeing on CNN. And so I think one thing that's important when one looks at the news, especially when it comes to events like those in Ferguson or even across the globe in Gaza, we must really realize the way in which the media, who reports things, is going to do so in a particular frame and from a particular perspective. And that perspective is often to blame the victim, as we are seeing was done with Janae today and other days prior here. Blaming the victim for what's really,
For being victimized.
and not really giving a nuanced, complex account of what's really taking place. Because I was seeing tweets that were saying that, you had, again, outsiders, people were coming from all over, and they were legitimately, and in some cases, infiltrating the protesting and organizing that had been done there on the ground to intentionally start something with the police, between the police and the people, throwing of water bottles and things like that. And in some cases, they were white and they were doing that. So, yeah, I guess I'm saying that I think Ferguson is interesting in that regard because we don't. I wouldn't say that I would believe everything that's being reported on the news about what's being done there, but I also know the way in which the coloring of people who are protesting and protesting in a legitimate way can be reframed to a negative sense, can be reconstituted and resituated as a bad. I mean, we go back to just mainly 45, 50 years now, and people who were legitimately protesting were considered looters and loiters. So I think we have to keep that in mind when we hear that about even places today.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All the time.
yeah.
I think this is actually a great time to ask Mikey, oh, y'all know him as Paul, how he feels
That's
about this
what.
question, considering that he is also young, not as young, but young, like Mike Brown, and because he just read the question and would like to say something because I asked him to.
Okay.
Well, I feel as human beings, we are all entitled to our feelings, whether they be anger, sadness, happiness, joy, whatever the case may be. Um, as a When it comes to how we should act on it, I feel like that is reserved, for the person. Um, in situations like with this Mike Brown incident, mothers hold their children closer, fathers try to spend more time with their sons. Um, Men my age, young black men, start to question their worth. They start to question, will I be next? What do I do to stop a cop from shooting me with my hands in the air? Is there any point in doing anything anymore if we see a man get gunned down in the middle of the street with his hands up? To respond to what was said earlier, I feel like we as human beings, when we see things happen, we know we're not stupid. We see something happen and we know what happened. We can guess, we can listen to news stations, we can go on social networks, social media, and see what other people think about it. But we know what happened. Case in point with the Ray Rice situation. It was released a couple of months ago, the video showing him drag his wife out of the elevator, or fiance. But a lot of people were saying we don't really know what happened. We can't really judge this man. And I feel like it was false. I knew from watching that video that he hit her or something of that nature, and he did something wrong. Something bad happened in the elevator. But she released a statement at the time saying that she apologized. She wants everyone to forgive him for what they saw.
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Yes, that happened. And 2 days ago, we find out and we see the full clip that he punched her in her face twice. And she fell out in the elevator, and then we see her getting dragged out. I didn't need to be in Ferguson to see the cop shoot him in his face to know that something went wrong. As the story is told, he was fired upon when he didn't have a weapon, walking in the street. They tried to bring up some information about him robbing a store a few months prior, when it turned out that that video had nothing to do with him. They weren't even sure that was him. And I feel like with the media, things get confusing. Things get you're meant to be distracted by it. And in situations like this, you start to forget what the real issue is at hand. The real issue for me isn't whether or not this man did anything to deserve this. The issue is, as someone stated earlier, we can't trust the justice system to uphold justice. When you start to think that way, you do start to get angry. And as a black man, I do find myself angry. But then I recognize that as a black man, I'm not allowed to act on that anger in certain ways. Or else other black men will be portrayed or seen as angry based on my actions. So, as sorry, what was your name again?
Michelle?
Venita. Venita. As she said earlier, it is better to think before you act, and I find myself trying to be one of those people that thinks the situation through before they act. I am a mother's only son, and I don't want to do something that's gonna shed any negative light on my family, no matter how angry I am. I want to break something. I want to hurt something. I want to loot. I want to steal. I want to riot. I want to scream. I want to fight. But none of those help the cause. None of those options help us find any justice for this man or for what other future victims may come. And it can be frustrating. So what I do to get away from my anger, how I deal with it is, like many others, I find a distraction or some act or something that's going to calm me down. And in moments like that where I need my peace, I look to my fiance.
That's it. All right.
I look to my family. I look to anything that's going to bring me any sort of assimilation of peace so that I can reel myself in. Mm-hmm. Because this Mike Brown situation isn't the first to happen. It won't be the last.
Can I say one thing? I am a mother of 2 sons. I recognize these things happen. I grew up in the city of Philadelphia. This is no new revelation. This has been going on forever. However, in light of that, I tell my sons, you are a black man. You do recognize that you have to work 10 times as hard to get half the way. There's no problem to shoot you down the street like an animal. With knowing that information, the first thing you have to do is use your mind. How am I going to save myself? That's the first thing you have to use, is your mind. We recognize it's out there. We recognize our justice system does not work for us, but we know these things. I want my sons to live, so I tell them to use their minds first. It's hard being a mother of 2 black male children.
It is, Venita, and and I mean, yes, yes, we can and should use our minds, but what did Trayvon Martin do wrong? At some level, there's more than just your personal responsibility, your personal actions that are involved here. We are living in an unjust world. And, what did Mike Brown do wrong? It's not, there's more going on than just how you handle yourself. That has to be addressed. That has to be addressed systemically.
And this is true. However, the folks that we're dealing with, first of all, have to see us as humans. And when you don't see folks as humans, then you don't treat them as so. Now, that's been going on forever and a day. I got a headache.
Randie, where are we?
Well, we only have a few more minutes. But I wanted to address one more question really. Okay, so she says we talked about this kind of, Michelle, when you brought it up. Maybe which one? Okay, so we'll just to end on a note, considering that last question was difficult. The last question in chapter 6 that I had, she says, "What is my practice? What is steering this boat that is my fragile human life? Take some time to contemplate what sort of practice appeals to you." So my question was, what moves you? How do you get through life? What do you, as Alice Walker mentioned, practice? So not like in a sense of distraction, but like Georgette, no, not Georgette, Kim said, nourishment. What do you do? What do you practice for you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
I would
exercise.
like to.
I
Huh?
exercise. I work out a lot. I mean, I just have always been that way. That helps me to relax myself. I do organic gardening. That helps me to relax myself. I read a lot about Taoism and philosophy that helps me relax myself. And I come to our book group, which helps me to relax myself. That's what I do.
I
We'll
think,
go. Was it Georgette?
Kim,
Kim. Oh, okay.
I think for me, I'm looking for more ways, but some of the things that I do is I take my anger and find ways to give back to my community. Because as long as I'm part of the solution, it reduces my stress. So next week, I'm going to an all-black school to give them a lesson in history. Just show up. The principal said I was welcome to come, so I'll come. And then once a month, my daughter and we cook food and serve food to people with AIDS and HIV. And I find that giving to people outside of myself really, really helps. But I also need to nurture my own soul, and that's more quiet time. And one of the things that I'm a strong advocate of is talk therapy, where whatever it is that's going on with you, to process it and talk it through so that it doesn't pop out inappropriately. So those are some of the things I do. And I write and I paint also. That's me.
Georgette?
Wow. Um, most recently, it's just been meditation. Uh,
Hmm.
my mom was well, we thought she was a Taurus, but she turned out to be a Gemini when we found out her original birthday. And so she could not control her anger. So I grew up watching her express herself in without regard to the consequences. So
Mm.
I have always tried to think before I strike, okay? Think about what the consequences of whatever I'm doing would be. And so, on that note, I also try to realize that any negativity that I'm faced with, I have to repel it. I can't let it have power over me, and so then I can do something more positive with whatever I'm feeling, whether it's negative, anger, or being trying to be more gracious or anything. Just try to turn it around and send something better out than what you've received. So
There you go.
that's
Mm-hmm.
all.
Annalise?
Well, I mean, usually the most obvious thing that I do or for myself is write. I mean, I write like for a living, but I also write for myself. I'll journal. I'm also a 12-stepper in the sense that I attend codependent anonymous meetings, if you've heard of those. I believe in actively working on myself and being in touch with um, my family of origin issues and going to a 12-step meeting, codependence anonymous. If you're not familiar with that, it's often associated with people who are like in relationship with someone who's an alcoholic, but also deeper than that, it codependency is in and of itself like an addictive, compulsive, behavioral type of response to, and often to people who are emotionally unavailable. And so anyway, so I do Coda, we call it Coda, once a week, and I've been working that very intensely in the last 6 months or so. But I've known about it and been in and out for 10 years, and that is a way for me to ground myself in some real guided thinking and in conversation with others. But I also cook. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy getting together with friends over food. I think food is a real equalizer. I mean, it brings people together of all different cultures and colors. And I also like jazz, straight ahead jazz. So I get together with friends. I go out. I have a very vibrant social life. Um, so I think in many ways, I guess you say all those things are kind of resisting something we talked about earlier, which was resisting those bad behaviors, even when they're, I'm exhibiting them, and I'm the one who's not acting out of the best of my humanity. So those are some of the things that I talk on the phone. I talk with friends too. I ask for their advice and guidance, and um, so those are the things that I do in order to come back to myself, but also just replenish who I am and try to remind myself of who I am.
Thank you. Michelle, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. The only thing I want to add to what's been said already is that I enjoy long, slow walks through the woods. The woodsier, the better. Um, and that really gives me a sense of peace and reminds me of the majesty and magic of nature, and helps me disconnect from the madness of the world. So
Mike, what do you practice?
Um, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. I practice making my relationships better. I focus on family. I focus on my queen. Um, doing
Paul.
something positive in any of my relationships. That is what I practice when I need to do something to, I guess, escape.
mhm.
Feel me, Paul.
And you, Randy?
I read.
Oh
I
yeah.
am a reader. Obviously, because I cannot let go of this book club. Even though
Good.
I'm
Yeah.
struggling in traffic and I struggle to get home, but I read. And Mikey can tell you when I read, I don't hear anything. People think I'm rude, that I'm ignoring them, but I really, literally zone out. And that's the only way
Yeah,
my mom allowed us to stay up as kids, is if we were reading. So
yeah,
we stayed up and we read. So it really, right now I'm into fantasy. Along with this book, I'm reading Game of Thrones, and it's really nice to not be like reading about people um, all the
yeah.
time. People are starting to bother me, like real life people. So I'm into more fantasy novels or science fiction. It's a little bit of distance right now, but
Yeah, there's a woman that I met through BWB who has in-person book club where they just read Octavia Butler.
And I'm reading her next. I'm reading her next. So, yeah, that's what I'm. The time also, I'm extremely family oriented. I'm at a time, I don't know, like I've left the country, I've left the state. I feel like right now is when you're supposed to be like living your life. I guess for some people that means traveling and not being settled, but I really want to be here. So I'm learning how to be still. I'm practicing being still, being with family, not moving so much.
Okay. Did we get everybody?
We did.
Okay. Well, thank you, Randie. Those were great questions tonight, and we didn't get to everything, but I encourage everyone to look at the notes again and ponder it. Venita even said she took a lot of notes this week because there really was just so much stimulation there. So I thank you all for coming to process this with us. It is my happy place. The book group has become my happy place, and is definitely one of the ways that I de-stress. And I just think we all need that in the world we're living in today. So have a great week, and I will be back here next week. Hopefully, Labeeb is going to moderate and not have technical problems. I apologize for the technical problems we've had tonight. I'll try to be at a better location, but I'll be somewhere reading our story together. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, y'all.
Good night. See you, Kat.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, Annalise.
Paul.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.